school, as Dennis Thomas is the new head coach of the Millville Thunderbolts. Dennis joining us on the line right now. Coach, good morning to you.
Good morning. How's everything going?
We're doing well. Congratulations on the new job. Your feelings on accepting the job this week? You come from Salem High School, where you also played, so I know you have strong ties to Salem. What was it about this Millville job that was just too good to pass up?
Hey, Millville, it's an opportunity that, that it's a great opportunity for many people. Their tradition precedes itself, and I just thought it would be a great fit for my family and I, and we just look forward to going to Millville and trying to continue a rich tradition of football.
Obviously, as you just mentioned, a great opportunity, and I want to get into that job a little bit. But I'll ask you one more question about Salem. How tough is it to leave a job like that, Coach? Because, like I mentioned, you did play there. I mean, that was home for you. It's got to obviously be tough breaking that news to the administration that you'd be leaving.
Yeah, it was really tough. More so letting the kids know, letting the boys know that I would be leaving and going to Millville. That was probably the toughest thing I've ever had to do in my life. Those kids at Salem, they're like my children. And when I had to break the news, it was a very emotional situation, and it was extremely tough. However, we've all gotten over it, and right now I'm at Salem until the end of the year, and I'm continuing to try to get these kids into school, and that's been a process, but again, it was extremely tough.
The situation you're stepping into, a little bit different than the situation you stepped into a couple years back at Salem. I mean, that was a program really struggling. You turned things around there. You guys go all the way to a South Jersey championship game this past season. Millville's been pretty steady under Jason Durham for the last 7 years. Of course, he steps down this past winter. And so it's not a rebuild situation, Coach, but obviously Millville not quite going as far in the playoffs as they would have liked this year. I mean, that said, it's not a rebuild, but I'm sure there are some challenges in accepting a new job. What are some of those challenges / goals as you begin to step into the head coaching job at Millville?
Well, one of the challenges you look at is, you lose 2 Division I running backs and Rob Ennis and Rick Will Armstead. You lose some good receivers, and it's going to be extremely tough to replace, Division I caliber guys. However, the defense was young, so we'll be returning a lot of guys on defense. Also, 4 of the 5 offensive linemen, come back. So, you still have the guys in the trenches blocking. So, you try to find some athletes, which I know Millville has, and a number of guys. So you just look forward to knowing what you have and trying to instill some key values, and hopefully things go well.
I know at the Millville Board of Education meeting the other night where you were officially approved, you talked about sort of building that family atmosphere, right? I mean, how important is that to you? Yes, you want to get it done on the football field, X's and O's, and pile up some wins, but I know you're about more than that. It's about sort of, building young men and building character in these guys and creating that family atmosphere in your locker room.
Absolutely, and that's what we did at Salem. We built a family atmosphere. That's why I said the guys are like my children, the kids at Salem. And we look to do the same thing here in Millville. One thing we have to do is get the kids really excelling in the classroom. Academics are so important. They're vital. Our graduation rate at Salem for the football team was 100%. We sent 13, 14 guys off to college. That we got guys Division I scholarships, in 2 years. So it was a huge turnaround. And that's what we look to do at Millville. Millville, they have the athletes. We want to continue to push academics, and we want to build a culture of a family, and that's what it's all about, having those guys trust in the system and building unity within the entire team. That's very important.
Checking in right now with Dennis Thomas, the new head football coach of the Millville Thunderbolts. Thomas coming over from a few years head coaching at Salem. Coach, let's back up a little bit further even. Obviously, I mentioned you played your high school ball at Salem. Then you went on to play at Rutgers for the Scarlet Knights. Tell me about that experience and maybe the things you learned at the Division I level. And even after that, as I know you got a chance to compete in the NFL a little bit with the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, what are some of the big takeaways from the collegiate and NFL level that you can apply to kids in high school?
Well, one of the things you can apply is that compete. Everyone's competing. When I went on the Rutgers, I realized that everyone was extremely competitive, not only on the field but off the field. It was always a competitive atmosphere. When I went on the Kansas City Chiefs, it was the same exact thing. Those are essential characteristics that you need in order to compete at a high level, on a high school level. Within the locker room, there's a family atmosphere. Everyone loves one another, or at least they show the characteristic of loving one another, a brotherhood, and that's extremely important. There can't be any division amongst the players or the coaches. So that's very important, and we need coaches, at Millville that's 100% on board. Millville has a rich tradition of good coaches, great athletes. So I think it starts with the coaching staff, putting together a solid coaching staff that believe in the system and believe in the program.
Another very cool line on your resume is coaching for USA Football. Tell our listeners a little bit about that, if you can. We're talking, the under-19 team, and I know you got a chance to go and compete, at least coach kids competing at a tournament in the Middle East. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, traveling over to the Middle East, it was an unreal situation. You watch television, and you see what goes on in the Middle East. A lot of the wars and the jihadists. However, it wasn't really that. It was a beautiful city. I actually had a great opportunity to spend a lot of time out on the streets and learn some of the culture there in Kuwait, and we actually loved it. I was offered a job to stay in Kuwait. However, I declined it. But it wasn't because of the situation. It was just way too far. It's halfway across the world. But I'll tell you what, the experience was unreal. Playing against teams like China and Japan and Kuwait, Germany, it was just awesome. And to play Canada in the championship, to win the world championship was just awesome. And I just bring that experience with me just to let the kids know, I've been all over the world coaching and also playing, and just to let them know that I've been there, I know what I'm doing, and I can show you how to be successful.
You don't often hear about, USA Football in the mainstream media. We think of it as a sport just here in this country. But how eye-opening was that for you, seeing that, not only other countries competing in this sport that we love so much, but countries sort of catching up a little bit? And obviously we have some of the best football athletes in the world right here in the United States. But was it sort of a unique experience to see how these other countries are doing in terms of building their football programs?
Yeah, it's a great experience, just to see how many countries are adapting to playing American football is great. The AFIF is just the International Federation of American Football. It's just awesome to see how many nations are coming together to play this great sport. But there's so many things you learn within this sport. That's life lessons like loyalty and honesty and dedication and compassion and building a family, trust. Those are the things that I think that's one of the reasons why everyone's catering to playing this sport. And it's very competitive and it's fun. So that's what I like to do when my coaching approach. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to have fun doing it. Not only have fun, but I'm going to love it as well. So that's what's great about this game.
Talking with Dennis Thomas right now on the South Jersey Sports Report. Dennis Thomas taking over as head football coach of the Millville Thunderbolts. And, Coach, you got a chuckle out of the room this week at the board meeting saying that your number one priority, or at least a big priority, was to beat Vineland. And I know that always goes over very well in Millville. But, at the same time, you also said, hey, Mainland's the first team on your schedule. And we're months away from the start of the high school football season, but you're already starting to think about how to game plan for the Mustangs, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, within the last couple of days, I've been watching film on last year's film and the year before that, the game against Mainland, and I'm just preparing myself. I truly believe in preparing well, making sure I'm ready for every obstacle that'll come before me, and that's what's important: being prepared, on and off the field, and being ready. You know, in order to succeed, you have to be prepared. So I'm just focused on Mainland right now, and Violin will come. You know, I understand that's a huge tradition. However, our first game is against Mainland, so that's what I'm focused on right now.
So your preparation already underway. What's the timeline, though, in terms of, when you can meet with the new players, when you guys can get practices going? I know we're wrapping up one school year, and we're talking about a sport in the next school year, but high school football is a little bit different these days. I know it's a little more lenient in terms of getting together with these guys over the summertime.
Yeah, well, I know my contract starts July 1st at Millville. However, because I've coached track and field, I've been able to see a few players that run track. I've met a few just throughout. I was walking throughout the city, so I've met a number of kids. They're excited and they're ready to go. So I just look forward to meeting those guys, continuing to build a positive relationship, and that's how it's going right now.
We'll get you out of here with one last question, Coach. Obviously, changing schools, changing leagues. I mean, how excited are you to coach in what is right now the Cape Atlantic League? I know there's a lot up in the air in terms of is the Cal going to merge with the West Jersey, but right now, as we sit, it's the Cape Atlantic League, and boy, top to bottom, a lot of great schools in that league, a lot of great schools on your schedule. I mean, how excited are you to not only take over a new program, but get a chance to see some different competition?
Yeah, it's a huge challenge, I tell you. Leaving from Salem to go to Millville, I explained to my kids, we have a lot coming back at Salem. I mean, I really think that we are probably picked to win Group 1 championship. However, moving on to Millville, you have a lot of competition. I mean, you play some of the best in the state of New Jersey, and it's a huge challenge. I look forward to challenges, and I'm just so ecstatic and excited about the challenge that's before me right now. So I approach it with a lot of vigor and a lot of tenacity, and I'm just ready to take on this challenge with my kids.
All right, Dennis Thomas, the new head coach of the Millville Thunderbolts football team. Coach, congratulations on the job, and thanks for taking some time out of your weekend for us this morning. We'll talk to you again, certainly, as we get closer to the high school football season.
Okay, thank you a lot, Mike. You have a great day.
You too. That's Dennis Thomas, again, the new head coach of the Millville Thunderbolts, coming